Step into the lobby of a mid-range business hotel in Osaka at 6 in the evening. The air is gently scented, but you can't place the fragrance. The check-in clerk bows once, slides a key card across the counter inside a small paper folder with your room number written in pen, and gestures toward an elevator you didn't realize was already arriving. By the time you reach your room, the slippers by the door are already paired toes out. The kettle has been pre-filled and unplugged, and a folded card on the desk explains in 3 languages how the bath remote control works. None of that took anyone 15 minutes of effort. It took someone, somewhere, deciding 15 years ago that the small first impressions of a stay were worth solving once and for all. That habit, sometimes called omotenashi, sometimes just translated as hospitality, runs through almost every part of Japanese daily life. Today's list is 16 specific examples of it, with a fair look at how each one works and why it might or might not survive a flight across the ocean. First up is the in-room yukata, the cotton robe folded, on the corner of every traditional ryokan futon and many business hotel beds. After a long day of travel or work, you change out of your clothes into something that's been designed to be comfortable on a soft floor, and walk to the bathing area without ceremony. The sleeves are loose, the fabric breathes, and a fabric belt ties at the side. In a ryokan, you wear the yukata to dinner, to the onsen, and to bed, which removes the small daily decision of what to wear in your downtime. The cultural fit is the broader Japanese architecture of dedicated clothing for dedicated activities. The reason Western hotels tend not to provide a real yukata, beyond the occasional waffle robe, is partly cost, and partly that guests, in chair and bed cultures, don't have the same association between robe and rest. But the small relief of stepping out of street clothes into something purpose-made is one of the calmest moments in a long travel day. Number 2 is the Japanese bathroom layout, where the toilet, sink, and bathing area are physically separated. The toilet sits in its own small room, with a sink built. Into the back of the tank, the wash basin and mirror occupy a separate vestibule, and the actual bathing room, with a deep soaking tub and a wet room shower area, is a third distinct space. This means one person can shower, while another brushes teeth, and a third uses the toilet without anyone waiting. In a small Japanese apartment housing a family of 4, that's not a luxury, it's basic logistics. The cultural fit is the broader Japanese practice of bathing as a daily ritual rather than a quick rinse. The reason this layout doesn't transfer easily is that Western plumbing codes and floor plans treat the bathroom as a single all-in-one room, and renovating to the Japanese layout costs serious money. But in any new construction, the 3-zone model is one of the cleanest small upgrades available. Third is the deeper furo tub, the squat, near-square soaking bath designed for a person to sit in up to their shoulders rather than recline. The tub is filled once, kept hot through an insulated lid and a recirculation heater, and shared by every member of the household over the course of an evening. Everyone showers and rinses thoroughly first in the wet room area, so the bath water stays clean. Water use per family bath drops dramatically compared to 1 tub per person. The temperature, often around 40 degrees Celsius, has documented effects on sleep onset, with research from Japanese sleep clinics suggesting a warm bath 90 minutes before bed for many people improves sleep quality. The cultural fit is family rhythm and reverence for water. The transferability question is mostly about plumbing and tub geometry, both of which are solvable for anyone planning a renovation. Coming in at item 4 is the bath remote control panel, though. Small wall-mounted screen near the kitchen or bedroom in many Japanese homes that lets you start filling the tub, set the temperature, and call for the bath to be reheated without going into the bathroom. Press a button. A pleasant chime announces the bath is ready. The system tracks the volume of water, stops automatically when full, and maintains temperature through the evening. It feels small. Over a year, it eliminates the daily ritual of standing next to the tub waiting for it to fill. The cultural fit is Japan's broader pattern of household automation aimed at small recurring tasks rather than dramatic ones. Western homes could have these. The reason most don't is that the integrated water heater systems they require are uncommon outside Japan. where the technology has been refined by companies like Rinnai and Noritz over decades. Fifth is the slipper protocol at a ryokan, or any traditional inn. You remove your outdoor shoes at the entrance, place them in a designated cubby, and step up onto the elevated wooden floor in indoor slippers provided by the inn. Walking on tatami requires removing those slippers entirely, since your feet should make direct contact with the woven straw. The bathroom, as noted earlier, has its own dedicated pair. This sounds like a lot of footwear changes. In practice, after the first hour, the system becomes invisible, and your feet feel cleaner and lighter than they would in shoes. The cultural fit is millennia of architectural separation between inside and outside. The reason it doesn't fully transfer is that Western houses don't usually have the entry geometry of a step up at the door, which is the physical cue that resets the foot from outside to inside. But anyone can install a small bench by the door and a basket of slippers nearby, and many travelers come home and do exactly that. Number 6 is the kaiseki dinner, the multi-course traditional meal served at higher-end ryokan and specialized restaurants. A typical kaiseki includes 7 to 14 small courses, each plated on a different piece of pottery chosen to match the dish and the season. The chef sequences the meal from light to substantial, alternates raw and cooked, hot and cool, and ends with rice, soup, and pickles in a deliberate, quiet finish. The pacing is unhurried. 2 hours at the table is normal. The cultural fit is Japan's tradition of treating the meal as a complete sensory experience rather than as fuel. The reason the format doesn't transfer easily is purely economic. Kaiseki requires a small kitchen serving a small dining room with intense ingredient sourcing, which collapses the moment a restaurant tries to scale. But the underlying principle, that a dinner can be paced as a sequence of small intentional moments, is borrowable by any home cook willing to slow down a Friday night. 7th, the oshibori, the hot or cold towel that arrives at your seat the moment you sit down at a Japanese restaurant or board a long-distance train. In summer, it's chilled. In winter, it's steaming. You wipe your hands and, if you're tired, your face. The towel is rolled neatly inside a small tray or sealed plastic. The gesture takes the host about 3 seconds to deliver and gives the guest the small relief of arriving cleanly to the table. The cultural fit is the omotenashi principle of anticipating a need before the guest articulates it. Other countries do this in some upscale settings. The reason it isn't universal is laundry logistics, since real cloth oshibori require a service contract with a towel rental company. The hot disposable version, found at convenience stores and bento kiosks, is a reasonable compromise that more countries could adopt with almost no change to existing supply chains. Item 8 is the bath stool, the Furo ISU. A small low plastic seat, usually paired with a handheld shower wand and a separate wash basin called a senmenki, used for sitting while you scrub before entering the soaking tub. Sitting changes the entire experience of showering. You're not balanced on one foot reaching for a bottle. You can take your time, wash thoroughly, including the parts of your body that are awkward to reach standing up, and rinse with a basin of warm water poured slowly over your head and shoulders, which is its own small sensory pleasure. Older bathers, or anyone with limited mobility, can bathe safely without grab bars. The cultural fit is the wet room bathing layout, which assumes you sit and rinse before entering the tub, rather than treating the shower as a brief vertical event. Other countries with aging populations, which is most countries now, would find the bath stool genuinely useful for fall prevention, since most serious bathroom injuries happen during shower transitions. Adoption requires almost nothing beyond a small, accessible bath shop's willingness to stock the right product, and a homeowner's willingness to rethink the shower as a place to sit. 9th on the list is the Japanese bedside button panel. In a well-designed business hotel room, every light, the TV, the air conditioning, the curtains, and sometimes the bath fill function are all controllable from a single panel mounted next to the bed. You can come back to the room exhausted, set yourself down, and turn the lights off without standing up again. It seems like a small touch. After a long flight, it's a small kindness that compounds. The cultural fit is the Japanese hotel industry's relentless focus on solo business travelers, who form a much larger share of guests than in many Western markets. Other hotel chains could install equivalent panels, and a few high-end ones do. But the cost of retrofitting older buildings is real, and most hotel renovations prioritize visible upgrades like new flooring rather than invisible ones like centralized switching. Coming in at item 10 is the Depachika, the food hall in the basement of a Japanese department store. Brightly lit, often a block long, the Depachika sells everything from $20 cantaloupe to handmade tofu, regional sake, freshly fried tempura, hand-decorated cakes, and seasonal bento boxes built for an evening at home. Each counter is staffed by trained vendors offering samples without pressure. Around closing time, prices drop and locals sweep in for the discounts. The cultural fit is the broader Japanese tradition of artisanal food retail and the willingness to spend on a single beautiful meal. Other countries have food halls, but the Depachika model is unusual in its scale. Integration with daily commuting through subway-connected basements and the absence of high-pressure selling. Adopting it elsewhere would require department stores willing to lease premium basement space to small food artisans rather than to fast fashion, which is a real estate decision more than a cultural one. Around this point on the list, you might be noticing a quiet pattern. Most of these so-called secrets are just things someone made the effort to do once and then never had to think about again. That's worth borrowing on its own. 11th is the kerosene stove kettle ritual in older inns and rural homes. A cast iron kettle sits on top of the heater all day, water gently steaming, available for tea at any moment without anyone needing to fire up the stove. The room smells faintly of warm metal and tea leaves, and the lid rattles softly when the water hits a roiling boil. Guests help themselves with a wooden ladle, or simply lift the kettle from its stand using a folded cloth. The cultural fit is the long Japanese tradition of tea as a continuous rather than scheduled activity, the assumption that hot water should always be one decision away from a cup. The reason it doesn't transfer easily is that most Western homes don't have a continuous heat source in a living space, and the safety profile of an open kerosene stove is real. But an electric kettle on a thermostat-controlled hot plate accomplishes the same effect, and a few minimalist Western design houses have begun marketing exactly that product as a wellness item, which is its own quiet endorsement of the underlying ritual. 12th is the on-tatami floor sleeping arrangement in a ryokan. The futon is laid out in the early evening by staff while you're at dinner, fluffed and turned with practiced hands. The duvet positioned at the right angle, a small folded yukata placed at the foot, sometimes a glass of water, and a folded paper crane on the bedside tray. You return to a room that has quietly transformed, from a sitting room into a bedroom without your participation. The smell of fresh tatami, that grassy, slightly sweet scent of woven straw, fills the lower part of the room as you settle in. In the morning, while you're at breakfast, the futon is rolled away, and the room becomes a tatami parlor again, with the low table back in its original position. The cultural fit is the Japanese tradition of single purpose at a time room use. Other countries don't typically have the staffing model to support this, but the underlying lesson, that bedding is something to put away in the morning rather than leave displayed all day, is one that helps any small apartment feel larger and any sleep space feel more restful when you return to it at night. Number 13 is the Ekiben culture, combined with seat back trays designed for eating. On a long-distance train, you buy a station bento, settle into your seat, fold down the tray, and eat a proper meal at a stable surface that doesn't tip your tea. The cup holder fits the standard convenience store tea bottle. The trash bin is 2 cars away. The smells of grilled fish and pickled vegetables drift politely through the carriage. Other countries have trains and bento boxes. The combination is what makes the experience work. Adopting it elsewhere would require a rail culture that treats eating as part of the journey rather than something to do quickly at a station between transfers. Coming in at 14 is the engineered queue at popular restaurants, especially ramen shops. There's a clipboard at the door for writing your name, sometimes a numbered ticket from a small dispenser, and a clearly marked waiting area inside or just outside, often with a small bench and a folded copy of the menu, so you can choose your bowl while you wait. Staff check the list at intervals and call you when ready. You can step away to a nearby convenience store, return when it's nearly your turn, and never lose your place. The cultural fit is the broader Japanese investment in making waiting fair and predictable. the recognition that an unmanaged crowd is its own form of disrespect to the customer. Other countries have started to adopt similar systems through phone-based waitlist apps, which is one of the few cases where Western tech has matched or even slightly exceeded the original Japanese model. The principle, though, is older than the app. Respect the time of the people in line, and they will reward you with patience. 15th is the Fukubukuro, the New Year lucky bag. Department stores, fashion brands, and even electronics retailers prepare sealed bags of mixed merchandise sold on the 2nd of January, often containing several times their list price in product. The catch is that you don't know exactly what's inside until you open it. The format started in the early 20th century and has become one of the year's largest retail events. The cultural fit is the New Year holiday's emphasis on fresh starts and small surprises. The reason it hasn't fully translated abroad is that it requires a retail culture comfortable with sealed bag selling and customers who treat the surprise as part of the value. A few overseas Japanese brands have introduced Fukubukuro on January 2nd, and the format tends to find its audience quickly. The 16th and final secret is the gentle service call button at the table. Press it once, a chime sounds at the counter, and a server arrives within a minute. No waving. No catching an eye. No half-raised hand, wondering if you've been forgotten. The button respects both the diner's dignity and the server's workflow, since the staff aren't constantly scanning the room for signals. The cultural fit is the broader Japanese investment in removing small social friction from public interactions. The reason this hasn't spread outside Japan and a few Korean and Chinese chains is partly tradition, partly that some Western diners read the button as cold or mechanical. Once they use it for a meal or two, most realize it's actually warmer than the alternative, because it removes the small anxiety of seeking attention. Looking back at the list, the thread connecting every item is that nothing here required a breakthrough invention. The slipper, the bath stool, the table button, the bedside panel, the towel, the laid-out futon, the carefully timed lobby chime are all simple objects or arrangements that existed somewhere in some form already. What Japan added was the patience to refine each one until it stopped being noticed. That's the deeper meaning of omotenashi, hospitality so well thought through that it disappears, leaving only the quiet sense that someone took care. The next time a small daily friction in your own life catches your attention, the question worth asking is not whether some company should fix it. It's whether the hospitality could start with you, in the small choices of your own home and routine. That's the quietly fascinating thing about every secret on this list. Once you see them, you can't unsee them, and you start building your own.